The next phase of the Passenger Bill of Rights takes effect today. The first phase was introduced back in July and laid out new rules for airlines to follow when it comes to things such as tarmac delays, overbooking, and lost or damaged luggage. This round of regulations outlines what compensation passengers are entitled to when their flights are delayed or canceled. It also dictates where children should be seated on the plane. So a lot to unpack here. With more on the latest round of air travel rules, we are joined by air passenger rights advocate Gabor Lukacs. Gabor, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me.
This is the second phase of the Bill of Rights, as we said, but new polling shows many Canadians are actually unaware of those rights. When it comes to air travel, I know you have a lot to say about this. So anyone about to board a plane over the holidays, what do they need to know about these new rules?
The most important thing for people to know is that the government is pulling the wool through their eyes. Actually, passengers will have no real enforceable new rights under this because the airlines will be able to avoid paying you compensation in the vast majority of the cases. The new rules actually create loopholes and codify the loopholes in the regulations. For example, if your flight is delayed or canceled, in virtually all cases, you will not be entitled to any compensation. Weather is excluded, maintenance issues are excluded, and I would love to hear the government explain to the public what is left then.
Right, and I think that's part of the controversy there is because people are saying that most of the reasons that flights are delayed are for the reasons that are exempt from these new rules. So critics, I guess, are saying, and yourself included, that these new rules actually benefit big major airlines and corporations over the passengers themselves.
That's right. The other concern that we have about these specific rules is that it actually puts passenger safety at risk because airlines therefore will postpone making repairs that could be and should be done right away. The law does permit them, give them some leeway to make repairs immediately or delayed by a couple of days or a couple of weeks, depending on the nature of the problem. And because there are no financial consequences, if more things break down and that stops the aircraft from flying, airlines will be incentivized to actually delay repairs as late as possible.
So the first set of this Passenger Bill of Rights landed in July. Those included compensation for tarmac delays and lost luggage, among other things. Do you think, in your opinion, we have seen tangible change in the industry since those first round of rules were implemented here?
The first set of rules were actually a step backwards. When you look at tarmac delays, for example, the government more than doubled the amount of the time passengers may be kept on the tarmac from 90 minutes, which had been the Canadian standard for about 10 years, to 3 hours and 45 minutes. And even that is not really being enforced. Just yesterday, I saw some tweets from one of your colleagues who was kept on an aircraft for more than 4 hours before being allowed to disembark.
Right. I think that was Larry Gifford of CKNW, correct?
I don't think it. I think it was somebody from Global News.
Okay. Another colleague of ours was also stuck on a tarmac.
Yes.
Tarmac this weekend. Okay. And I want to get your take on this. Always a controversial issue. Everybody has a stance on it, but children on planes. And I know that this new set of rules will basically mandate that they have to be sat next to their parents or their guardians at no extra cost if their parents request it. Is that correct? Or can you shed any light on that part of these new rules?
This is also a step backwards compared to the status quo. And the government is, again, misleading the public about it. Requirements to seat passengers next to children or children next to accompanying adult have been in place since December 2014. In a regulatory decision that was made. Airlines were just ignoring it and were getting away with it, unfortunately. When you look at Air Canada's own contract with passengers, its tariff, it actually states that up to age 8, the children have to be adjacent to the parent. Under the new rules, that requirement exists only up to children up to age 0 to 5. When you look at Air Canada's existing rules, there is also a requirement to make such seating to seat children close to the parents up to age 12. So many of those rules the government is touting now as brand new have actually existed. They're already on the law books or part of the regulations or regulatory decisions that exist, but they haven't been enforced.
All right, so just unveiled under new packaging, essentially.
Yes, it's actually in many ways regifting existing rights. And for young children, it is actually making things worse because now the children of age 7 and 8 don't have to be seated adjacent to the parent.
Okay, Gabor Lukács, air passenger rights advocate, thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday morning. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for having me.